We have generally finished working on our UI scripts for our inventory system. Now it would be a good time to start working on our inventory model. So let's select our scripts folder, let's right click, create a new folder, let's call it model or data structure, let's call it maybe model. Okay, and inside this inventory model, what we need to have is first the items, so a way to store the data about the item. And the next, the inventory data structure, so a way to store multiple items in one place. We are going to start with by creating first the item. So let's right click, create a C# script. We are going to call it item. And this will be based on scriptable objects. So I'm going to add SO just for the sake of knowing that this is a scriptable object script. Let's open this script up in Visual Studio. Okay, great. And now, to create a scriptable object, I need to extend not a monobehavior but scriptable object. Okay, and now we do not need those start and update methods. One thing that I want to have is a way to create this from the level of my inspector, so I need to add above it an attribute create asset menu, and it will simply create the ItemSO option to create inside the create menu in the Unity inspector. Now let me paste the content. So I will have the data describing the item here. We're going to create properties defining some values. To create a property, you can type prop, snippet, tab twice, and you should have the snippet, and you can type the type of the snippet and use tab to move to the name and type the name my prop and enter to create this, and it will have a getter and setter. So we are going to create such a property for a public bool is stackable. Basically, I know that some items may be stackable, so we need to collect them all into one stack until we reach the max stack size. And we are going to add serialized field attribute, but to serialize a property, we need to add field colon serialized field to serialize the field of a property. Now we also need to take care of comparison of each item, and that's why we are using scriptable objects, because each scriptable object contains get instance ID method that returns a unique ID of this instance of the ItemSO scriptable object. So if we create it, we are going to have the same ID for each type of this item, so we can easily compare if we have a sword in our inventory by detecting if we have an object with this ID in our inventory. So we are going to have a public int ID, and this will return us get instance ID. So this will be also a property with a getter that will call this method on the ItemSO scriptable object. Next, we are going to have a field serialized field public int max stack size property, and this is because we need to know if we have stacked some objects into the same slot and what is the max size until we need to create another slot for this item. So by default, I'm going to set it equal to B1. Next, we are going to have a field serialized field public string name. Since we need to know the name of the object, this will be displayed in the title of the description of our object if we click on the object in the inspector. Next, we're going to have field serialized field public string description. Now, most probably we will create those scriptable objects in a real game from some sort of a data file. So we are going to have, for example, a JSON file with all the data, and we're going to create those scriptable objects. But if we want to create it from the level of the inspector, we may want to add here TextArea attribute to improve how we can type it in the inspector. This will take now more than one line of text. Now we need to also copy this field colon to apply this to the field of this description. And last thing that we are going to need is a sprite. So field serialized field public sprite item image. And all of those have get and set methods because we may want to set them again if we want to create them from some sort of a list of items. Okay, so right now we should be able to create it from the level of the inspector. So let's save this ItemSO script. Let's go back to Unity Inspector. Now we should be able to select the data folder, which I haven't deleted items from, so we can delete the content of this. And right now what we can do is right click, create, and at the top we should see ItemSO. So let's create ItemSO, let's call it sort. And we are going to see in the inspector that we can check if this is stackable or not. The max stack is always 1 if in case it is not stackable item. And we can provide the name sort. And we can give it a description. Okay. And we can provide the item sprite. So let's click it. Let's type loot. And we should have this generic loot. So let's select the loot 01, which is the sword. What we can do is select the sword, duplicate it using Ctrl D. Let's change the name to be apple. And we can select for the apple that this is stackable. The stack size is 99, for example. Name will be apple. We can type the description restores health. And we can select item image and let's type loot. And we should find something that resembles some fruit, so we are going to select this sprite. So now we have 2 items in our data folder that we can use for our inventory system. In the next video, we are going to start working on the inventory data structure so that we can actually put those apple and sword items into our inventory. And next we are going to tie our inventory with our controller script. Okay, see you in the next video.